just get into more stuff. You never know what's going to make difference. Okay. The height of a kangaroo jump after t seconds can be modeled by the quadratic equation. The kangaroo reaches its peak height at 10 feet after 2 seconds in the air. That is good to know. So that means we're going to make a really quick sketch here. Is it jumps up and comes back down. And this point right in the middle is at t equals 2 seconds, and the height is
10.
Is 10. Okay. That is also known as the vertex.
Right, in the middle.
Really good to know. That's the vertex. All right. I was like, okay, we got the vertex down. That means vertex form makes the most sense. When you're given something that tells you, okay, y equals a x minus h squared plus k. All right. So from here, your h is 10 and your,
Right.
I'm sorry, your h is 2 and your k is 10. So those go into this equation over here on the left. Y equals a x minus 2 squared plus 10, like that. All right. Now I've made sort of this classic mistake here where I don't use the notation that they want, h of t. Okay, so we need to do that now. We, instead of y, they don't really want y, they want h of t. Instead of x, they want t.
Oh, I see. Okay. So replace
Small
it.
thing, but you got to do it the way they want. That's the thing here. Now the a is the issue. To find a, you need one other point. Okay, and you don't have it here. So to get it, you have to read this last sentence, which says it has a vertical reflection and a vertical stretch of 2. It's a little odd the way they're writing that, but that presumes that a is 2.
A is 2. Okay.
By the way, do you have the solutions to these by chance?
Yeah, I do actually.
Could you check and see if this actually is correct here? Because there's I don't really like this wording, but I want to make sure before we go on that it's actually what they're asking for.
Oh, wait. They have -2 parentheses x minus 2 parentheses plus 10.
Okay, good. So that really matches what we've got here, except we don't have a negative.
Yeah.
And the negative comes from the fact that, well, it went up and then went down. We know that when a is less than 0, that's the leading one, it opens down. When a is greater than 0, it opens up.
Yeah.
Okay, so small little thing there, but that's good. Any questions on that before we proceed?
No, I got that.
Okay. All righty, so now let's take a look here, part B. It says, initially, did the kangaroo jump from the ground or was he standing on top of a rock? And you're supposed to say, well, I don't know, I wasn't there. How am I supposed to figure that out? Right? But We can through some algebra answer this question. They're basically asking, what is the height when t is 0? If he's on the ground, then the height would be 0. If he's not on the ground, well, the height will be something else. So what I'm asking you to do is put 0 in for t.
Oh, okay.
Put 0 in for t. And the answer will tell us something.
Okay, I'll solve.
How are you doing on this one?
I think I got it.
Okay. What's your
I-
final answer?
I have h equals 2.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's -2 squared, which is 4 times
Yeah.
-2 is -8 plus 10 is the 2. So that means he started, or the kangaroo, I guess we don't know whether it's a male or female. It started at 2, and then units looks like it's feet, 2 feet above the ground, which, okay, that's reasonable. I mean, it's not like he's starting 20 feet above the ground and jumping, although
Yeah.
maybe kangaroos do that. I don't know. Ah, but what this question is doing for you, like macro level, high level view is you're putting 0 in for t.
Right.
Okay.
Do you like replacing it?
Yeah. And there's the other thing you're going to do, which is in part C, is you're going to set the whole equation equal to 0. So like sometimes you get to the test, and you got all this stress and you don't know what's going on. You have to go back to like, well, like what's the most basic thing I could be doing here? I'm either putting 0 in for t, or I'm saying the whole equation equal to 0.
0 in for t.
Yeah. Now, in this previous problem, we were putting 0 in for t because it asked for what was happening at the beginning. But now it's asking, when is it going to hit the ground? The kangaroo starts, hits the ground. We want to know when h of t is equal to 0.
Okay, I'll solve.
Okay, so you're saying the whole thing equal to 0.
Can I replace t for 0?
No, see, and that's the distinction. The distinction is you've got to set the whole equation equal to 0, not the variable equal to 0.
Okay.
And to solve here, well, that could be the challenge. I mean, we haven't done one of these in a while. So yeah, if you have some questions, be good to ask, or I'm happy to work through this for you.
Wait, yeah. What should I do first?
Okay, I would subtract 10 from both sides.
Oh, after that, I already did that, my bad.
-10 equals -2. So I'll get caught up to where you're at.
So,
Then I would get rid of the -2 in front by dividing by -2.
right, so that's 5, okay. 5 equals 2 minus squared.
Okay, so from here, Here, you can just take a square root of both sides. Square root, square root. So I'm just gonna switch sides here. It becomes t minus 2 equals the square root of 5. And then what's left to do is to add 2 to both sides. Talked about putting that in front. Something like that.
That'd be the final result.
Except I missed an operator here. It's really bad. 2 plus the square root of 5.
Got it.
All right, so let me give you one to try like this.
All right.
Not near as difficult, but let me just set up kind of be similar here. Let's go 4x minus 1 squared minus 8. Go ahead and solve 4x. Very similar to what we just did.
Okay, I have a question real quick.
Okay.
I have 0 equals 1/2 parentheses x minus 1.
Okay, so yeah, let me stop you there. Like the previous problem, you moved the number to the other side of the equation.
Yeah, I did. I moved -8.
Okay, so what's the operation to move the -8?
+8.
Okay, so that changes the 0.
Yeah, and then I had 8 equals 4 x minus 2 squared, and then I divided by 8.
Okay, let's go back and look at the previous problem. What did we divide by?
Oh, but I was supposed to divide by 4.
The number in front. Whatever number's in front, you divide by. So here we go. You got to divide by 4.
So this is really 2 equals.
Okay. Keep going.
Parentheses. X equals 1 plus the actual square root side of 2.
All right. So now I think you've got it. So let me give you one more to try. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, I'm going to switch it up just a tiny bit here. Let's go 3x plus 4 squared minus 9 equals 0.
All right. X equals -4 plus square root of 3.
Very good. Okay, very good. Now, there's a little wrinkle here that I want to remind you of because I was omitting it in all these problems. But let's just say you got a much simpler problem like x squared equals 25. Okay. When you take the square root of both sides, it's really plus or minus the square root of 25. Plus or minus, plus or minus. Now, there's a reason we didn't do it in these last problems that I don't really want to get into because it doesn't matter right now. But I want you to make a note or put it on a flashcard or Quizlet or something where you're like, somehow you got to remember this. This is a classic mistake where you just don't write the plus or the minus. Okay, so
Okay.
x equals plus or minus
Plus or minus.
5 in this case.
Got it.
All right. So let's go back to your problem. We got I got kind of sideways with doing some other stuff, but I felt like that was necessary. So we go back to kangaroo. We make a quick sketch. The kangaroo's 2 feet off the ground. They start here at 0,2. 2 seconds later, they hit 10. And then over here, 2 plus the square root of 5, 0 is where they hit the ground. Okay. That's where we kind of left this problem with the kangaroo. It's kind of hard to imagine a kangaroo jumping 10 feet in the air. I don't know. I'd want to see that. It's probably true. I mean, I'm sure they can jump higher than I can.
Yeah.
But that's still pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Next question. It says, another student says the domain of this quadratic model is all real numbers. Does that make sense? So let's remind ourselves, well, what is domain? Can you tell me anything about domain that you remember?
Domain can be all real numbers. It's like domain is X's.
Yes, and that's important. Or in this case, T's.
Yeah.
It's typically X's or T's. Now, can you be negative? Can there be a negative T here?
In this case,
Yes.
yeah.
What would that represent?
Going under or
And I'm only asking that because you said it was negative. Like the kangaroo is right here, or my cursor is, and it jumps up and then it hits the ground. We don't know what happened before then. We know that once it hits the ground, we presume it just stops. It doesn't keep going. So what I was looking for is that there is no negative time.
yeah, there's not really any negative time.
And there rarely is. There rarely is in these physical problems. Okay. So the domain in this problem is 0 less than or equal to T less than or equal to the time it hits the ground. So this is almost always 0.
Right.
And this is when it hits the ground or the water or whatever it is. Now, when does it hit the ground? What's the time when it hits the ground in this case?
Is it 4 seconds or
What do we have written here? I mean, maybe if you went to your
5?
calculator,
I guess. I mean,
2 plus the square root of 5. Like maybe you don't like that number, but it is a number. That's your domain. Like it's not nice, but it is. That's when it exactly hits the ground. And it's like, well, what is that? Well, it's 2 square root of 5. 2 plus the square root of 5.
how do I see that? Or how do you do this? How do you do the square root on a calculator?
So there should be a square root button. Depending on what you're using, you take the square root of 5 first and then add 2. What I'm hearing is an uncomfortableness, and that's typical with like, what is this? It's like, well, it is a number. It's just not friendly. It's irrational.
Is the square root of 5 like 2.23?
Yeah, it's between 2 and 3, closer to 2. Yes.
Okay, so 2.23 plus 2.
Right. It's okay to leave it like this. 2 plus the square root of 5.
Got it.
It's doesn't have to be a number with a decimal. It's really okay like this, believe it or not. Okay, so let's go back. So does it make sense to say all real numbers? And all real numbers means minus infinity to positive infinity. Does that really make sense in the context of this problem?
No.
No, because this problem only cares about when the kangaroo is jumping.
Right, and so that doesn't have to do anything with it.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to say that we would say, okay, so we've actually answered this question part is what would the domain be? We just mentioned that it's over here. We want to say that the domain of the problem refers to when the jump occurs.
Okay, I got that.
Got that? Okay. All right. Next question is, what is the range of the kangaroo's jump?
So the range is y.
It's the y's. It started here. What was this?
0, 10.
Yeah, so this is 2, 10. So the smallest y value is what? And the largest y value is what?
The lowest and like
What's its height when it hits the ground?
0,
There you go. And what's its height when it reaches its peak?
10.
There it is. Now you do need all that other stuff, y such that y is an element of the real numbers, comma, you need some curly braces, you got to dress it up.
Got it.
All right, any questions on that before we move to the alien problem here?
No, I'm ready.
All right. All right. An alien in his spaceship takes off from his planet to visit his friend at a nearby planet. His flight path forms an upside down parabola. So that's this one. Your equation will have a vertical shrink of 1/3 and a vertical reflection. The alien reaches his peak height of 210 miles before beginning his landing after 8 minutes of flight. All right. So this is really similar to the previous one. Okay. It tells us that he reaches his peak flight at 8 minutes. And the actual peak height is 210.
Right.
So when you're reading a problem like this, and the more we work together, the more you'll see me do this, and I want you to do it the same, is you basically circle the numbers. You're like, all right, there's a lot of words there, but I need the numbers. Okay. And then what do the numbers mean? Well, in this case, they tell you the vertex. So we wrote this down in the last problem. Y equals a x minus h squared plus k. And we see that the vertex is 8, 210.
8, got it. In the middle.
Right there, yeah. So now that's the value of h, that's the value of k.
All right, so vertex form.
Yes. Okay, now to find a, they need to give you some information. In this case, they need to give you a point or something else. but they don't. They just tell you that it's 1/3.
1/3.
But much like the previous problem, because it's got this flight, it's negative 1/3.
Yeah. So it's negative 1/3 x minus 8 squared plus 210.
Yes.
Got it.
Now, that's great. Hopefully you can replicate that now. Now, from here, there's really two problems they're going to ask you. It's either put 0 in for x, or set f of x, which is really y, equal to 0. Like there's two distinct things you can do. And so graphically, let me show them graphically, because that will also help. When you're putting 0 in for x, you're getting this place right there where you'd start.
Right.
And when you set the whole thing equal to 0, you're getting where it terminates, where it stops, where it hits the ground, hits the water. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to snip in both B and C, and you got to tell me like what that means. Like I want you to be able to correctly interpret, looking at my screen, looking at your paper. Like you don't have to do it quite yet, but like, what are you doing in B? What are you doing in C?
Got it.
So I'm waiting for you, Mateo. I'm looking for some words, basically just to echo what I said. See if it's clear.
Yeah.
Like,
I have -1/3 parentheses 0 minus 8 squared equals minus 210.
okay. Heard one thing I didn't like, but just to be clear, let's be clear here. You're telling me, and this is kind of what I was trying to get you to say, is for the first one, you're putting 0 in for x. And that's what you just did. That's what you just said. Okay,
Yeah.
putting 0 in for x, and that's where it starts. That's where
Right.
it starts. Actually, maybe make this red here. Okay, so to do that, it's -1/3, like you said, minus 8 squared. Differently, 0 minus 8 squared plus 210.
Yeah.
All right, could you simplify that for us, please, as best you can?
Both of them.
Just the first one, just this one up here.
me pull out my calculator 1 sec. Okay, I have square root parentheses x minus 8 parentheses squared equals square root 630.
Okay, so somehow there's a disconnect here. And I apologize. I was just asking you to solve to do this right here, just to simplify this. -8 squared multiplied by -1/3, then add it to 10.
Oh, my bad. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and what you did is this next part, which may or may not be correct. I we'll get to that, like one at a time, right? One pitch at
Yeah.
a time, one play at a time. Like we're not.
right.
So just this first one, just what is that number?
$274.
Okay, so let's just work through together. So -8 squared is 64.
Yeah.
And then you're multiplying by -1/3. Now that doesn't work out nicely. It ends up being a decimal. That's okay. A third of this is going to be about 21 and a little bit, and it's negative.
Yeah.
And then you're adding that to 210. So I think what I heard is you did not account for the negative. Go ahead and account for the negative here, add it to 210.
So wait, what is it, like -21?
Well, you go to your, I mean, what I want you to do is see the multiplication here, see the result. You gotta take a little bit of a leap here and just try it. Tell me what you see when you multiply. That's just the first part out, not the plus 210, just this -1/3 times 64.
Wait, can you send that link for that calculator again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Here we go.
$188.666. So
Good.
189, I don't know.
Yeah, that's good enough. Good
Yeah.
enough. Okay, great. So that's part B. So one of them is to put 0 in for X. The other one is to set the whole thing equal to 0. And that's what I kind of heard that you were doing. You already did. Now I'm going to help here. We're going to first subtract 210. Okay. And maybe that matches what you did. Probably does. I mean, you were doing these really well in the previous set of problems.
Yeah.
So, okay, negative 1/3 times x minus 8 squared. Normally you divide by this front number, but when you divide by a fraction, it's awkward. So instead of dividing by a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. And I think I heard that because you told me like a 630 in your previous answer.
Yeah.
So I knew you were on the right track. It's just it's kind of like the difference between we give a lot of analogies, but you got to know which way to go. We're either putting 0 in for X or setting the whole thing equal to 0.
Yeah.
From here, you take a square root. Now, normally it is plus or minus, normally, but in these real problems, like when we're in real scenarios, it's typically only the positive. All right, so from here, you add 8 to both sides, and your answer is 8 plus the square root of 630.
Got it.
So here's what we have so far. We have that 8 minutes into the journey, the alien reaches a max height of 210 miles. Okay, and we know that it started at 0,189. That was one of the points you calculated, and then it comes back to Earth or wherever it's going, planet X, 8 plus square root of 630.
Got it.
So the questions they and reiterate, like the first point is when X equals 0. This one over here is when f of X equals 0, which is not the same. This top point is the vertex.
Right.
And you have to be able to distinguish between all of those. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So we're almost there. Last question, well, we'll do both parts here. We want to know the domain and the range. Okay. Domain is the X values. What is the smallest X value that this can take on?
Zero.
0. And what's the largest X value that it can take on? When does it hit the ground again?
No. Can we do the range first and then come back to this one?
Nope. When does it hit the ground? You've already answered that. When does it hit the ground?
0.
Nope. Well, it's 0 when it hits the ground, but what's the time value?
8 plus 630.
Yes.
Oh,
And I know you
okay.
don't like. I know you don't like that. No student does the first time they see it. You can go to a calculator if you want, but that is the
works.
domain. That is the
Okay,
range.
got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Range. Okay.
0, 210. Then you
Yes.
have to write it out. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right. How are you feeling about
Good.
this?
Yeah.
All right. We're going to stop a little